I was listening to Kevin's. I don't know if this is something Kevin has done. The Secret Place. This is pre-recorded, or if he just did this today and it was released today. What is today? The 17th. But anyways, he was talking about. let me review. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he remembered something that just came to me in about a week ago. But anyway, let's play what Kevin said here. See if it triggers my thought.
30 years. I work in customer service. It was interesting to me how if I was just kind, even if the circumstances were hard, if I was just kind, had a kind word, and thought of other people rather than myself, it was amazing how I stood out. And people would always write into my company and say how kind I was and how I thought of other people. And it was just my job to me, but it was just who I was as a person as well. But the revelation of God's kindness in my life also helped me. And so the Spirit of the Lord would come upon me when I was at work. And I
When he was talking about that, it triggered a thought I had earlier. It's either a week or a week and a half ago. It's something I need to stick with me. But my life's been under so much turmoil, I'm just trying to survive. It's like sometimes you get beat down and you can't even catch your breath. That's the way the last, since 2008's been for me. Can't even catch my breath, but it's been a beat down, that's for sure. But anyway, I was listening to some music by a family group called the Petersons. And I know Kevin's dad was into music, but as I was listening to this group, it spoke to me because I thought, what are they? It's so interesting. This family comes together and they do this music and they all put it together, all the different instruments and all of the strings and sounds and singing, and they all put it together, and then it creates this atmosphere. And the atmosphere captures you, and you become one with it as you're listening to the music. And then that atmosphere becomes your atmosphere, and you become. You just enter into it. And as I was thinking about that, I thought, in Genesis, that's what God started creating, was an atmosphere, right? Right from the beginning, he started creating an atmosphere. First he put light, then he separated the atmospheres. And it made me think that every moment, and there's another song called The Petersons, recorded that one of their, there's a guy that they took into their group that recorded this song called Moments. It was about a guy that went into the wilderness. I guess they did a movie about him. I think it's called Into the Wilderness or something. But the guy ended up dying alone. And in his book, in his journal, he said something about life is only real when it's shared. So he went into the wilderness probably just to escape the rat race and And why would someone do that? Some of us are easily, like me, all my life. If you've ever seen the boy in the bubble, he had no immune system. I mean, whatever virus or cold, if someone had a simple cold, it could kill him. So he had to keep this young boy that had no immune system in a bubble to protect him, right? So spiritually, some of us can be like that, and everything affects us. And I think that this guy that just ran off and went into the wilderness just was tired of being infected by what's around him. And you know, this is a fallen realm, and it's an infected realm is what it is. That's what a fallen realm is. It's been a realm that's been infected. And what was it infected by? It was infected by a word. And a word that was a spiritual DNA that had transforming power and changed it into its image. So when Adam had a child, it was no longer in God's image, it was in his image. And this image is the problem. It's an image that has the knowledge of good and evil and the DNA of the original sin, which is a lie. And if you look at anything that's ever evil that we've ever done to one another as a man, it's always a lie. Whether it be believing that a black man isn't equal to a white man, or whether if you're at work and your job, like I work right now in a job that I'm the stepchild of the job. They call them contract companies. And you get no benefits, you get no sick time, you get no vacation time, hardly. You get a very small sliver of the piece of the pie. Well, the people that are the children of the company get good benefits and all of the other things, and even greater pay. And then they give us the worst jobs for this contract company that I work for. So you'll not only do some of the worst jobs, you don't get any benefits or pay. It's almost like heading towards slavery, but it's slavery that you can get away with. But they believe that that's right. You see how a lie, they call that business. They believe that that is right. So that creates an atmosphere. That belief system creates an atmosphere, and then people live in that atmosphere, right? And as I was listening to this music, they created this atmosphere, and you enter into it, right? So as I was thinking about all this, it made me see that when Kevin was talking about kindness as far as the atmosphere it creates. But if you really think about it, every moment that we're alive, we're putting forth an atmosphere of some kind. Just spiritual atmosphere. Now, when Jesus was on the earth, he walked because he was connected to God, and he didn't have the nature of regular mankind. He didn't have that nature. So when he was on the cross, when the worst thing possible could happen to him is people are murdering him and beating him half to death, almost like, I mean, that's kind of what happens in hell. What was happened to him on the cross is really what happens to people when they end up in hell. They get ripped to pieces. He was going through hell before he even went down to hell. That's what they do to you in hell. They murder you, they rip you, but you don't die. They just keep ripping you to pieces. And that was an atmosphere created by belief systems. And by really, people respond based on what's happened to them. That's why it's a fallen world. But the point I'm trying to make here is that no matter what happens to you, like what happened to Jesus, remember Lou Holtz said, it's not what happens to your life, it's how you react. Jesus didn't react by what was happening to him, the hell that was coming at him. He reacted by something else. And even as he's being crucified, his reaction was of love and understanding. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, who in this world is like that? So this guy that went into the wilderness, this Peterson wrote this song called Moments. He wanted to separate himself from probably all of that because he probably was infected by all the evil of man and just wanted to go off in the wilderness and separate. Remember in the Bible, God said to Abraham, be ye separate. So this guy that went out in the wilderness, he just wanted to be separated from it all. But then when he was separated from it all, he died and realized that his life, even though he's separated from all the evil of mankind, that life isn't real unless it's shared. So I guess what I'm saying here is it's just like God created an atmosphere in Genesis. Every moment that you're alive, like Kevin made a comment. First, I don't know. I'm sure he didn't. How he first perceived his job, he just thought, well, I'm just doing a job as an airline flight attendant. Just doing a job. But the reality is, remember, Jesus said, look up that the fields are ripe right now. Remember, he made that statement. The only trouble is that we're not in the right place, right? I'm not saying Kevin wasn't. As I started listening to Kevin, it sounded like God started moving in that direction as far as his job being his ministry. So we have the power, no matter what we're doing, even if you're in the situation where you're being crucified by Jesus, like Jesus was being murdered, he still reflected something that was written and remembered 2,000 years ago. Because what he put forth, the atmosphere, see every moment is an opportunity to put forth an atmosphere. You have the choice to bring forth an atmosphere. Just like those people that would make music, the Petersons. They're creating an atmosphere in that moment. So every moment that we're alive is an opportunity to put forth an atmosphere. And an atmosphere is going to be created by whatever you're connected to. Remember, Jesus said, if you abide in me, he says, without abiding in me, you can't do nothing. So what happens is Satan knows the same thing, so Satan wants us to abide in him. That's why he created everything to propagate his atmosphere. So every evil thing that Satan does that's filled every person that's alive, every single person, he's wanting to use that person to propagate, to manifest his atmosphere, his spirit, and his word. So every moment is an opportunity to create an atmosphere. And God created by speaking. It was one way. But that's such a powerful thing to be able to create something every moment. If you look at Moses, he didn't like what was created against his people. And he saw the Egyptian whipping. Remember, Jesus was whipped? Well, he saw the Egyptian whipping one of the Israelites. And he murdered him, right? He just murdered him, straight up. So he created an atmosphere. That atmosphere came after him. Once he did that act, he couldn't hide it. Now, even if he hid it, and mankind didn't come after him, like they came after him to murder him, Satan still had that on him. It still would have came after him, even if it was totally hidden. No one saw it. It still would have came after him. Even if no one saw it. Because Satan saw it. It was Satan's will. He propagated Satan's atmosphere. So when people get in those situations, you know, when the people of God get brought down low like that, it's easy to be like a Moses and just want to kill. I mean, it really is. I've been through so much stuff in the last 8 years that it can make you unkind. It can make you as mean as a snake. Especially when you gotta understand, Satan doesn't give rest. When you don't have rest, like I try to get enough sleep and never can. Just constantly battling. I tell you, you don't get enough sleep, boy. It's hard to do anything. It's hard to function. And then Satan attacked my family with autoimmune disorders, which cause chronic fatigue and other diseases. But when you're in those states, you reap what you sow. So when Moses murdered the man, you reap what you sow. So it's so easy to sow bad. So as you're creating these atmospheres, you're actually sowing something. Then you reap what you sow. So Satan's trying to always exhaust you, wear you down, break you down in every way possible. I just want to play a little bit of an atmosphere that these people created. I don't know whether to play the song Moments or All My Tears. Just maybe both.
When I go, don't cry for me. In my Father's arms I'll be. The wounds this world left on my soul will all be healed and I'll be whole. The sun and moon will be replaced with the light of Jesus' face. And I will not be ashamed, for my Savior knows my name. It don't matter where you bury me, 'cause I'll be home and I'll be free. No, it don't matter where I lay, all my tears be washed away.
Just wanted to play a little bit of that song. And there was another one I wanted to play. It's interesting in that song, if you listen to the words, It sounds like my alarm just went off to wake me up. I was going to sleep until this time. Let me play a little bit of this other song since I got to go shut my alarm off.
When train wheels screech and plumes of smoke arise, and snowflakes breach the cold and empty skies. Read to me of wonders and winds, of a man who traveled over mountains grim, of the voices calling him. Billows break with revelry on stone.
That song there was written about the guy that went into the wild. He wrote this song after seeing the movie, I think, called Into the Wild, which you could almost say Into the Wilderness. And the guys journaled when they found it after the guy died. Said life isn't real unless it's shared. The base of the song is called Moments. And these moments are the things, the atmosphere, which we put forth, which is a record, history of our life. And whatever it is we put forth, whatever atmosphere we put forth in those moments is what's going to exist. And Moses, he had a moment, he just murdered a man. But he was infected by what Satan, in a sense, Israel reaped what they sowed, because they murdered a tribe of people after they slept with their daughter. They had a reaction to that. Like their daughter was defiled. And they felt like they were the chosen people of God when God separated them from other people, and they felt like they were better. So when this guy just slept with a daughter and defiled him, they righteous indignation. I'm not saying what the guy did was right. That was the customs of their land. They were so angry that they murdered the entire tribe of people. Then famine came in the land, and ended up 400 years in Egypt after they committed those murders. Because a lot of that blood that they killed was innocent blood. And it spoke against them. Now they didn't have an eye for an eye. An eye for an eye would, well, their lives would be taken for taking someone else's life. God had gracious, he was kind to them, and in fact that he let them be in prison for 400 years. So they were, and Moses didn't understand these things. So then Moses repeats the very act. He repeats the very thing that caused them to be in prison for 400 years. He murders someone. So evil is always creating an atmosphere, and then you get infected by it, and then you act. Like Lou Holtz has said, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react. How you react based on whatever infects you on your inside. And I think so that's why Jesus said, you must abide in me. Because you're the bride of whatever you're infected by. Moses was the bride. Do you see that? When Moses murdered the man, he was the bride. He became Satan's bride. Satan had legal right to curse Israel, to put him in bondage. So when he saw the power and the evil that Satan had over, the dominion that Satan had over Israel, he murdered the Egyptian. Because Moses was bride to that. He was infected by it. He was the bride of that. So it's interesting. If you look at every action of a human being, we become the bride of evil. And then we create an atmosphere in our moment, and then that affects everyone else and everything else. And it also becomes our history, our life, our record. And then if we become like this other guy and just separate ourselves from everything. Abraham separated himself to be away from the infection. God said, be ye separate. So Abraham separated himself so he wouldn't be infected by it and become the bride of it. So that's why they separated themselves, because it's powerful. I mean, look at all the evil that spread before the flood. It was just propagating into greater and greater evil. Violence begets violence. Anyway, let's play a little bit more of this song and I'm going to jump off here. But like I said, this is about a guy, the song was written about a guy that went into the wilderness and separated himself to be away from all that. He was probably easily infected by it all. I can't blame him for that. So that's why it's important that we get close enough to God to overcome all that. They're born of something else.
told you